Thanks very much for your time on the call. I do welcome everybody, and we very much appreciate your investment in the 30, 40 minutes that we're going to be spending today. I know everyone's busy, and thank you for that. So I do know everybody on the call so far. I'm sure there's some more people that will join that may not, so I won't go through who I am because you know. But what we want to do today is just run through some pretty exciting technology, all about RingCentral, obviously, which we think is going to make, or has the potential to make, some fairly significant benefit for your school. So 3 things on the agenda: presentation from Ben, a bit of a fireside chat with Craig, and I'm sure most of you have met Craig before, and then a Q&A at the end. If you do have questions along the way, by the way, just pop them into the chat. We can always address them as we need to before Ben can interrupt his spiel. Okay, so those of you who don't know everybody on the call in terms of our guest speakers, Ben Swanson, Regional Vice President for RingCentral. He was actually the founding employee, one of the founding employees, actually the founding employee with Australia, I think.
First on the ground, your first boots on the ground. Thank you. Yeah, great to meet everybody. Thanks for having us on the call and the opportunity to share our insights.
So 20 years experience in the communication technology industry. Lots of insights to share with us, so looking forward to hearing from him. And most of you, I'm sure, will know Craig. Been in the IT industry, if you remember. Currently with Christian Education Ministries, or Australian Christian Colleges, depends which name you want to label it. Been across significant growth in that organisation, and some of those details he'll share with us later today. I think up to about 20 odd sites at the moment. Very fortunate about to have him on the call as well. So I'm going to hand over to you now, Ben, if you want to jump right in.
Thank you, Graham, and thank you everybody for having the opportunity to speak to you today. When Accucom came to us with the opportunity to share some of the insights we have from our experience with a number of customers, both RingCentral and Accucom have delivered to the K-12 space within education, we thought it was a great opportunity to share. We do have quite a number of customers in this particular space, and we're seeing quite a number of trends around this particular space, as well as some commonalities that are coming across wider industry, and then some very unique use cases. I'm very excited to have Craig on the call with us today, so we'll also get a real world in hands-on view on what our customers are seeing out there in the market. So what I thought I would start with is just first of all building out on where RingCentral has seen a lot of, I guess, vertical and industry focus happening in the last few years. As Graham mentioned before, I was the first employee on the ground, and within the 8-year cycle since we've been here, we've grown quite substantially. And the first few years, it was a very much sort of a horizontal approach with, any customer out there looking to move in the early cycles of that adoption curve were moving ahead with us. But now we're seeing that the adoption of cloud communications has reached maturity, and we're now seeing, much more of the regular industries, which are, beyond these, which I've got up on, and I'll talk about in a sec. But we're seeing that most organizations now have consumed cloud communications, and it was almost the final frontier of IT. Your productivity apps like Outlook or Google or Microsoft were moved to the cloud already. Exchange went first. Your storage and all of your, the networks have improved to do that. But as we look at these 4 pillars, we as a company have focused on them for around about 18 to 24 months. Our partnership with Accucom extends many, many years, and we've been with the AIS conference with Accucom, repeatedly. And this has allowed us to, within the last 12 months, we've actually acquired and been able to solve many challenges for a number of K-12 schools specifically. And as we look to the right-hand side, ranging from Queensland Childcare Services, which is very much in the early childcare stages, to a number of Catholic dioceses. Here we've got Cairns. There's also one which spans an entire state with many tens of thousands of endpoints. We have Craig with us today from Christian Education Ministries, as well as, some schools like Mosman Prep, which are very similar to those of you which are on the call with us today. And thank you for taking the time. All in very much an IT management style of role or leadership role. And we naturally feel that sharing what we've learned and what we learn and how to apply our technology is very, very relevant to you. It's not indifferent as well to looking at some of these other verticals in health and retail, traditionally very handset-centric types of businesses where, you've got lots of location type of phones which may not be tied to an individual, but there's ways that we've addressed each one of these verticals, which we'll share as it relates specifically to the education space. So one of the things we did over the last sort of 6 to 12 weeks was go back to a number of our, between our sales engagements, the customers and the RFPs that have been running throughout, around what is the decision criteria that you as an IT manager are looking for when looking to purchase your next cloud or communications solution. And cloud communications will be at the forefront of it. There's a natural and careful blend which is taking place of addressing what your immediate needs are, which we see as the basics, while also strategically considering the future trends. We're all very conscious in the sense that we just can't jump onto the latest fad. Once you replace a technology, you typically have that for a number of years, and so you can't be left behind with outdated or inefficient technology as well. So as we look at a couple of these different components, and I may not speak to them all, these are a few of the items that we see as the feedback on what's the top of your mind and what you're considering. So security and privacy is absolutely critical. From a compliance perspective, providers need to be able to demonstrate compliance and adherence to things like Essential 8, ISO compliance, providing all sorts of penetration tests, not to mention, where is the data residing, where is it at rest, where is it at transit. And when we talk about new technologies, it could be around AI and, it's quite sensitive to be recording calls in that K-12 environment, but there are certain areas where you may want to be considering it. Even around using that with data analytics and how to provide good information. Those things are all really top of mind, right? Encrypting calls or ensuring that locations of where people are individually calling from. And as we move to more of a campus or hybrid or work from anywhere style of environment, we really need to be having the visibility of looking where individuals are located. And if a 000 service gets called, that information needs to be passed through to the right entities, being internal and external. Reliability is naturally at the core framework of everything that we do. Being able to, enforce SLAs and ensure that we deliver, that you as a customer receive a certain level of service level is absolutely critical. And then looking at new ways of connecting, like mobile phones, and having failover to 4G and 5G so the internet services go out from time to time, or if there's an unreliable power situation, things like that. As you move from an outright purchase in an owned technology, when you've got some on-premise equipment, you might be acquiring new campuses, or you might be sitting on some technology which is coming from the yesteryear. Moving from an outright purchase to a subscription model needs to be looking at all of the hidden cost and maintenance, not to mention budgeting for the long term. We see the integration of existing systems as a really important play, whether it be, things like paging systems we'll cover a little bit more in the next slide, as is being able to administer and deliver support and training. So they're the things that we've got right now. But as we move into the trends, how do we go and deliver great new efficiencies, not only what's available now, but in a cloud service? I use the analogy quite often around, when you buy a new car, you drive it out of the showroom, that's the best that car typically is ever going to be. Now, with subscriptions into Tesla and all the different electric cars, that may be different as we go into the future, yes. But in the old world, as soon as you drive that car out, you typically lose a few $1,000s as an instant, and it's not really going to be much better. But as a cloud service, Unified Comms is continually evolving to add voice, video, messaging, AI, AI receptionist, all these wonderful things which have been coming, not to mention data and insights. Mobile and flexible access of the ability to work from any device, anywhere, anytime, and even extending things like, walkie-talkies, which can be a big cost to a educator when you've got campus environments, to drive that over an application which can sit on the teacher's or the administrator's mobile phone for just a couple of dollars a month is pretty cool. And we'll hear from Craig later on about the scalability of some cloud solutions in how, if you are adding new sites, adding new schools, acquiring new locations, how you can go and add scalability to your infrastructure with very simple needs, simple deployments, and basically scaling that up, to an infinite number of locations and customers, while also considering emergency communications, whether you have, things like broadcast needs to go on if there's a suspicious character attending or walked onto your campus, or it could be that somebody had, maybe cut their finger and, need an ambulance from the woodwork room. All of these emergency situations need some sort of technology around that. And some of that can, do things like broadcasting to all the mobile phones in the area, or it could be just around, loud sirens and pages and intercoms and different things like that. So balancing that up as your decision making is very, very challenging. So we understand this. It's also balanced with, if you have some traditional on-premise equipment and you need to migrate that over, you've already made a very significant investment into all of your handsets. I've just talked recently about what about paging systems, intercoms, door phones which also have access and two-way radios. If this is run from like a previous analog type of system or very much around digital lines rather than IP, it can be challenging to migrate. There's typically a lot of phone customization, which we can do with location-based phones, which could be in a staff room or a classroom. How do we lock those down to make sure that, the cleaners can't make international calls? How does that look in the cloud world, as well as the emergency notification? And so some of the ways that we've resolved this with our customers is we have a very wide range of supported IP handsets. So typically in the cloud space, a Polycom, a Yealink, or a Cisco is supported because they're very much an industry standard style of handset with SIP capabilities. Though traditionally those manufacturers like Avaya, Mitel, Alcatel, and Unify were proprietary based. However, it's very fortunate that all of these four vendors have a partnership with RingCentral, and we can absolutely say a lot of those phones can now be used on RingCentral. So if you've, acquiring a particular campus, or you've got some of these in your existing site and you're looking to do a technology uplift, we've got a way to have a look at their particular model numbers and their firmwares, and then we can tell you if they'll be supported on our new platform, and if so, what capacity they can do. To the extent that a lot of these, the firmwares are managed by us and they stay up to date on very much the later models, and some of them still might work in a SIP capable sort of in an analog style of device. When we look at those existing systems like paging systems, intercoms, door phones, and two-way radios, we can naturally connect in a SIP environment. We can also deploy an analog terminal adapter, an ATA, and ensure that if you've got analog devices out there which just can't move forward in this particular time frame that you need, we can still deploy analog extensions and support them, just like the fax machine. I mentioned before, push-to-talk for mobile is a great way to reduce your cost with walkie-talkies. And one of the things that I would say that we've done, that's impacted our success in the K-12 space is the education bundle license. So we know with a lot of, location phones, there's a lot of idle phones out there which don't get a lot of traffic on them. But those phones which sit in the classroom or the staff room or similar will need to be locked down. And so locked down to a particular class of service where you might want to allow them to make a local call. They always need to make emergency phone calls because that's what we need to be doing, always be able to call 000. but maybe not allow them to call mobile numbers, or definitely not international. And so that's one of the frameworks that we deploy for our school environments, as well as, emergency notifications and things like that. A little bit about RingCentral. I'll be amiss not to give you a little bit of a high-level education on what we do. So 25 years in the software industry. We're a cloud provider of cloud communications, and in our core DNA, we provide a cloud-based phone system. That's what we do the best. We are a great phone PBX. And then what we do around that, we deliver this to whether it be a mobile phone, a soft phone, or a handset, and all of that voice communication. So that's where our core DNA is. We deliver that with 5 nines reliability. We've got over 500,000 customers here in Australia. It's about 5,000 customers here within the Australian marketplace, and we are number one in terms of revenue market share. We also do messaging and video. We completely understand that in your environment, you probably most likely use Microsoft Teams or Microsoft, or you might use Google, which is also okay. In both of those environments, we can be the powerhouse of the voice inside of your collaboration tools. And so, if you wanted a secondary product, sometimes customers say, hey, I want to have a secondary voice video product. We can be that as well. We also do things like contact center and revenue intelligence and all sorts of events and different things, but we won't be covering that today because we're mostly talking around the voice component as it relates to your business. Just a little bit of a market share. So I did mention before that we're number one in terms of paid seats and revenue market share in the unified communications as a service space, or cloud comms. So that's what this shows on the left-hand side. In the Microsoft world, we are seeing a strong uptake in our product underpinning Microsoft Voice strategy in the Microsoft Teams environment, which you can see there in terms of the way that we are working together in that top left-hand side. And if you do look at any external research like Gartner or Frost & Sullivan or any of those, you'll find us together in the leadership segments in each one of those magic quadrants or radars or whichever one that you may see. And if you don't look at that, we won't show you again. I mentioned before that your consideration out there is to, when buying new technologies, to look at the trust and reliability. It's one of the things that we pride ourselves on, and we have a trust center inside our portals. So you can always look at our uptimes. You can look at all of our penetration tests and all of our compliance certificates, which are available to you as a customer at all times. And we do that as part of our innovation strategy. So we invest about 22% of our profits back into our platform to ensure that we maintain the position we have in the market and deliver what you ask for as customers, which was a good example was like the education bundle. And we do business through partnerships, which is naturally why we're on a call with Accicom here today. I wanted to really enforce to you, and this is one of the things that Graham asked, is, what does the team strategy look like with RingCentral? And you're making a buying decision. You're looking at teams. You can say, hey, I think this is just going to make sense. I get some good pricing to some licensing right now. So why don't we just go and extend that? And you know what? That potentially could make sense. When we look at all the different factors, not personally, but from a RingCentral perspective, there are some limitations around Microsoft Teams. When we look at should you have a high density of handsets out there, managing those from a firmware perspective and the deployment can become a bit challenging. Not to mention if you've got lots of different sites or you've got some administration to be doing on those systems, there's a lot of scripting which is involved. Our administration is very simple. When you need to consider adding in some third-party components like paging systems or walkie-talkies or, doorbells and all these different things, it can become a little bit more complicated. And so what we find with our RingCentral customers, you actually don't need as much staff to go ahead and manage your phone system anymore. You can rely on us as a team to be there for the triage, and however you manage your sort of, your exchange environments today, it's very much a case of just adding users and let everybody go ahead through the, self-administration. From a third-party integration perspective, we integrate with lots of different cloud apps. From a productivity tool, as it's for K-12, if you're a Teams user or you're Microsoft House or you're for a Google House, we have options for both. It's included in our education bundle, and you can go and deploy this right across your workplace, whether it be from a soft phone or a mobile, and we support all of the handsets and everything that goes on around that. Beyond that, we'll hear from Craig. He uses Salesforce later on in Christian Education Ministries, and they're using that from a transcription perspective, taking our AI transcriptions and saving those notes. And we've got that integration all working with a new version coming out as well. So if these things are of your mind, there's lots of different ways that we can integrate with other cloud providers. A little bit more around what it looks like with Microsoft Teams. So very easy to use. If you look at this particular screenshot, I took this last night from my window. It's a tab which sits inside Microsoft Teams. This is our embedded dialer, requires no phone system license. It gives you all sorts of great things like presence and faxing and heads-up display, like if you're a receptionist. This is persistent as well, so should, let's say that Teams is unavailable, this will still deliver a phone call regardless. And you can see this little pop-out window where we also show some transcriptions. If you are potentially having a difficult conversation with a teacher, or potentially be with a parent, something like this, maybe you want to record that call, maybe you don't. This is why we give you the option to say yes or no. We realize there's a little bit of maybe a stigma or a little bit of apprehension on recording calls. We're not here to force it on anyone, but we make this available. So that's what we're doing around AI. This is 5 nines reliable. We give full PBX capabilities in this across every single device that we use. And you can be bringing your own handsets and reusing those that you have as an example. Just a final bullet point here, which we find from our IT managers, is how do I go and get traffic information? How do I go and find out the number of calls coming into my main line, or is there any calls coming out, and what are the trends? So with our analytics portal, we find both from an IT perspective, when you're looking at things like call traffic, you're looking at mean opinion scores, you're looking at, if somebody reports that they had a poor grade of a quality of a call, we've got those analytics sitting in here, which you can see some of these on the left-hand side. Is it a good call? Is it a bad call? And then on the right-hand side, looking at call traffics. How busy is the office in a Monday to Friday environment? What are my peak times? It's probably in the morning when everybody's calling in to say my son or daughter is not coming in today. And then how you can go and complement, those different areas. But all of this is built in, and there's wonderful ways that we can go and solve your challenges. I'm just going to pause there before I go and jump in with Craig and see if there's any questions being asked. So no questions being asked. That's great. Feel free to go and pop any questions you may have into this window, particularly as we do a fireside chat with Craig. All right. Thank you. So Craig, have we got you there online?
Yeah, I'm right here. Thanks for having me, guys.
There you go. Just making sure that we can hear the voice, and that old mute button knows to be pressed and deactivated. So thank you for coming in today, Craig.
Yeah, not a problem.
Appreciate it. What I thought I might do just to start off with is maybe you can tell us about your role and about Christian Education Ministries.
Yeah, sure. So I'm the head of technology for the group. We say group because it's a mixture of schools. So we're multi-state. We've got around 21 sites now, I think, 17 or 18 schools. We do both distance education, we do homeschooling, we do early learning centres as well. And so we are a corporate company that actually sits behind those schools and manages and runs those, and I'm the head of technology for that group.
Okay, cool. Thank you very much. Can you tell me what the communication was at your schools before RingCentral was selected?
Yeah. So like we were saying before, when we were talking, it was very scattered and very ineffective. So we had a bit of a melting pot. We had some old Cisco UC stuff sitting around, like some really old school kind of copper ones. We were dabbling with Telstra Tippet and 3CX. And it ended up being a really big melting pot, very ineffective. and difficult to manage from a bunch of different aspects. And so when we actually started looking for something to unify that, we were coming from a pretty bad place, I would say.
Yeah. Okay. And so what were the challenges you were trying to solve?
Yeah. So look, we had everything from user experience. So as in people were using old systems that were just not working well. We had significant billing and cost management issues. So anyone who's got a number of services with Telstra will know what that's like. But I used to get a bill every month that would vary between 550 and 650 pages.
Wow.
We also had significant management issues. So we run a pretty small team. We've got, like 1,400 staff and 10,000 students or thereabouts. And I've got like 10 guys. And so trying to manage all those different solutions and systems was really, really significantly, demanding of our time. And so we were looking to solve all those issues. But on top of that, they weren't serving us. We really wanted the features that come with those modern platforms. We were looking at the mobility, the AI-driven stuff, the integrations as well. We were in a relatively good place with the rest of our systems, but this was a bit of a pain point.
Yep. And so you made the decision to RingCentral and you moved forward ahead with our technology, and thank you for that. We're now in an environment where you've had it installed for some time. We've got approximately 20 odd sites out there, and you're just saying that you're about to expand on that again. Would you like to share a little more on that?
Yeah. So one of the things that is a big part of our company and indeed my role is that expansion. So this year alone, we've added 5 new sites. 4 of them were schools, 1 of them was a corporate site. In the future, we've got 9 coming on board, I think, in 2026. And so deployment is a really big thing. We just recently took over a school that was running 3CX, and I'm pretty sure it was either the business manager or the principal that we're having a conversation with, and he was reflecting on how difficult 3CX was to set up. As in it took them, weeks, 4-6 weeks to get it working, fairly clunky, whereas we did the groundwork beforehand, but we did like a COB cutover on Friday afternoon at 5 p.m. Like they knew it was coming. By 8 p.m. we were finished, and they walked into school on Monday and it was up and running. And it was that,
Wow.
and it's that simple. And very little training as well required, like in terms of deploying the soft client and people are learning how to use it. Quite simple to use. And so for us, that's a really big part of the picture. When we're doing those cutovers, we want to make sure that we got things down by rote. We got to go, to get the connectivity right, to get the platforms right, we've got to get the comms right, and we just roll through them as quickly as we can. And RingCentral has really come to the party there.
Yeah, that's great. And so you talk about the soft client. Is that a combination of both the mobile and the PC? What are you finding using the different devices?
Everywhere, yeah, literally. So, like as you were going through your materials, reflecting on some of the use cases, and so we've got hundreds of staff that either work remotely, maybe internationally, or in a mobile capacity, and so they're all using the soft client. We have like 300, 400 distance educators who are working in that kind of mobility factor as well. Wow. And so there's this big mixture of people who are using both the soft client on their PC or on the mobile. I was on a plane last week and driving. We were traveling to a little place called Swan Hill in Victoria. I had one of my senior engineers with me, and he was making very good use of the time in the car. Especially, he was working away and he was taking calls off his RingCentral mobile app. I know that there's a bunch of schools in Victoria where they're not quite big enough, where they have tons of staff, and so often the main reception person, like if there's someone who's sick and they can't get a casual in or whatever, the main receptionist is out on playground duty, but she's manning the main reception line from her mobile phone coming in without, any big issues. It's just a seamless transition. So we're using all of those features. And we find it quite valuable. I think we only now deploy physical handsets to a key reception desk which might be shared by 3 or 4 people on a rotating basis, and they want that big phone with the sideboard, or maybe some handsets in classrooms. But we do indeed have a few schools where it is a requirement for staff to have the app on their mobile phones, and they actually use that as an emergency comm system within the school. They chat to them, use it as general announcements. So they, going to what you were saying before, if someone suspicious comes on site, that's how they alert all of their staff. They just set it to the actual app. So we're using all those
that's
features.
the policy. Yeah, that makes sense. As
Yeah.
long as there's a policy and procedure in place, then that's how you do it. Yeah, well, that's fantastic. So it's a combination of all of the devices, which you're seeing, and it's moving more to a soft environment. Great.
Definitely.
And so it looks like your biggest lift is during that initial replacement, when you bring those new campuses on, the new education facilities on. Are you working with RingCentral in terms of helping to kick that off? Or are you doing that yourself?
Yeah, so we engage the professional services for some of the basics around the porting of the numbers and bits and pieces, but it's a relatively small cost, and then we provision the service, spin it up, and we get it going ourselves. So we've, like you said, got 20 something sites. You know what I mean? And I've got one of my senior staff members this looks after the telecoms, and that's like 30% of his role. And that's all he has to do. It's a very, very small part of that, but the deployment stuff is super easy. Like when we were doing the POC, we did one. We had some Telstra Tipper services. We looked at 3CX and we looked at Microsoft Teams, and then we did the POC with RingCentral. In every situation, the deployment and setup process with RingCentral was significantly better than any of the two that I've mentioned. Much easier, and the overhead managements are quite simple by comparison, I feel.
Yeah. Look, that's great to hear, and it's not uncommon for us to see customers like yourself have a savings. And as you can, the viewers on screen can see, you're stating here a $300,000 savings in over 3 years. And I mean, that's what you can report externally as well. I'm sure the benefits are greater than that as well.
Yeah, they're actually growing. So as we've added more sites, that gap has grown. I would say it's actually significantly more than that now, which is really helpful. And, everyone wants to save money. So
yeah, everyone loves a good decision, which pays itself back, which is great to hear. At this time, I'd love to include Graham. So Graham from Accucom naturally introduced us as a technology. They are our partner here and very critical in your relationship. So Graham, maybe you can help us with, getting a bit of background on how you've worked with Christian Education Ministries.
Yeah, thanks, Ben. We've been very fortunate to work with Craig now for quite some years. I'm actually not quite sure how many, but 5 or so, I guess. And it's not just with the telephony side through RingCentral, but we also do a lot of work with the networking, security, so firewalls, some server, server cloud stuff, and a number of other projects along the way. And very, very happy to be part of the journey, because the growth has been quite significant since we've started working with the group. And over the next few years, it's looking to do more, what I understand. I think with all the engagement we have with our partners and customers, and a lot of them on the call today as well with other schools, we're very much looking to have that proper partnership, not just where we're selling a product and disappearing into the sunset. We're there trying to make or help the school make this decision going to be there for the long term and have potential not only from technical advantages but also financial or commercial advantages as well. And we're very grateful that organisations like RingCentral can help us to do that for our customers. But I think overarching all of that, it's the segments within an IT manager's role are very, very dispersed, varied, and across quite a number of different areas within the school. And trying to enable and support organisations through the ever-changing, ever-growing journey of IT is very much what we're looking to do with Craig and obviously others as well. Is there any questions from the floor that you'd like to ask Craig, because he's the man on the spot at the moment, or Ben.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great opportunity.
Actually, we'll just see where before anything else comes online. Are there any tips that you wanted to share, Craig, for other people that are reviewing their telephony at the moment, and how you would do it?
Great
Yeah,
question.
that's a great question. Yep. So I think that when you're looking at something like this kind of particular platform, you want to make sure that you're going to get the gains that you want. So we were looking to remove workload. And so we wanted to actually put, within the scope of the POC, look at what the management was like. And I think I want to stress here, not all players are the same. So little details matter. And so I reckon you look at systems that are going to be scalable, but their scalability is going to not just be in terms of the performance, but how you support it. And so we have had very little issues with RingCentral. The only one that comes to mind is that when we were doing the POC, we were looking at call quality, and there was an issue where a particular mobile carrier, there wasn't great call quality, but we were able to use the inbuilt tools within RingCentral to figure out it wasn't an internal network, it wasn't a bad call, and identify that it was a handoff. And we were able to identify that issue and actually have a resolution in place within 48 hours. And that's the kind of stuff that you want to actually see that is demonstrable with the platforms you're looking at. When you have an issue, how are you going to resolve it? Is it going to be resolvable, or is it just going to be an issue that you've got to live with? You also want to make sure that the supportability factor isn't going to explode on you. And RingCentral is very, very helpful at that. And I think you also want to make sure you actually look at the dollars and cents and actually add it all up, because RingCentral is a very transparent platform that it is a monthly bill. It does what it says it is, and you can easily scale it out as you grow. Those are my biggest tips at the moment, I think.
I think the bill's only 1 or 2 pages compared to your forest and trees from before.
Very much so. Yeah, I think that's right. It is literally like 1 page. It's very easy to interpret. It saves me a lot of time because I have a lot of bills that I have to pay and look at. And yeah, it's very consistent. That's what I like.
We do have one question on the floor. Thanks, Jonathan. How granular is the admin portal in terms of ACLs for a range of different roles and responsibilities within the team? For example, can you allow helpdesk staff to simply provision numbers and handsets only for their respective sites? This is from a group of schools as well. That voicemail, etc.
The answer is yes.
Office having a high level.
Yeah, the answer is yes. So that's actually something that we actually deal with. So we have, like I said, a number of sites around the country. Some of them do have an on-site presence, and some of them do not, which means they're resting solely on the head office. And yes, you can set up a particular person at a particular site to have access to that, just be able to manage that particular site, which is helpful. Yeah. And the same in terms of not just manage it, but in terms of like setting up the IVR stuff as well. You can have that one person have the permissions to do that kind of stuff.
So you could allow one office manager to look after that particular location, to add and remove users or change people in and out of the main office queue, help number.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. We actually do that through Okta. It's fully integrated with Okta. So it automatically provisions a key admin person at each site with that particular role, as well as giving people licenses for RingCentral automatically for their own sites.
Amazing.
Sure. Yes. We have no more questions from the floor. So I guess what the logical next step would be for those that do have further questions is just get in touch with myself or your designated account manager. We'll come and obviously visit, run through what you're looking to achieve. So I'll get back to you, Jonathan.
Jonathan's got another one.
Yeah, he's going hot to trot. And then obviously invite RingCentral along to share the granular in-depth type of answers that we may not know as ACCOM. So the final question, or not final, maybe more. How is billing managed in terms of split per school, or was it done later via finance?
Do you want me to answer that, Graham, or do you want to answer it?
I'll leave it to you, or Craig, or
I
Ben.
can answer as well. Well, I think we'd love to hear what you do, Craig, and then I'll provide a RingCentral answer as well.
Yeah. So we've got, like I said, the 20 odd sites. I get one bill, but every single site is actually listed. And it's so there's obviously a cost per endpoint. So some of the sites are bigger than others, but I literally just get the one page and it's just got each school listed and what their bill is for the month. It's that simple, but yeah, it is split up. It's very helpful.
Lovely.
Yeah.
Nothing else
Great.
to say. That's great.
Yeah.
Thank you, Craig.
It is very, very refreshing compared to a 600-page Telstra bill, which you just never know what's in there.
And you didn't need the detail. You can log into the portal and go as granular as you want.
Yeah, we actually do all that stuff.
All of the billing is available in the portal as well. So while there's one with an invoice, you can access that invoice from the billing history, and then you can go further into the admin portal to get all sorts of further details as well.
Yeah, we actually use that fairly actively. Last year, when we were looking at staffing for 2025, we actually used the actual business analytics to look at what the call flows were coming into the help desk, etc., into the various teams and at what points of the year. And we were able to establish a baseline of calls and look at busy periods compared to quiet periods and actually figure out there were some areas where we could survive because I was just busy periods, but there were other areas where she needed to increase staffing. And so it did that particularly well. I've not seen that kind of analytics. And it was easy. And it was very easy to actually take that, present to the CEO and actually demonstrate that.
Right, so you're able to see the seasonality. It's a workforce management tool as well.
Yeah, that's right.
Right.
Guys, I'm conscious that we've come to the end of the time slot we allowed, and I know people do have busy days to get back to. So unless there's any further questions, I think my suggestion would be reach out to us, or we'll probably reach out to you as well, just to see what your thoughts were, and look forward to having further conversations on that. But I did want to say thank you very much, Craig, for your time. Really appreciate you giving us some minutes, and Ben as well. Thank you for your contribution this morning.
Anytime.
Yeah, no problem, guys.
Wonderful to be here. Thank you, Graham.
Thanks very much, guys. Thanks to, for those who joined the call.
Thanks all for joining the call.